Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Athirah Binti Rahman. So my matric number is S50254. So today I want to discuss with you about my individual project assignment from MGM 5601 subject, which is commercial law. So for the question 1 from the topic consideration, Ali, the youngest of 3 siblings, has been offered to study at University Malaysia Terengganu. His 2 older sisters, Aminah and Alia, promised to provide allowance for him 500 ringgit Malaysia monthly on the condition that their mother transfer some land to both of them. Their mother agreed and transferred the land to Aminah and Alia. Both of them, however, failed to fulfill their promise, and Ali sued them for the promise. Advised Aminah and Alia. This issue is whether Ali can bring an action against his sister for the amount promised in a contract, where the consideration for such promise has been furnished by the mother of Aminah and Alia to provide allowance for him 500 ringgit Malaysian monthly. So for the law, according to section 2D of Malaysia Act 136 Contract Act, when at the desire of the promisor, the promisee, or any other person has done or abstain from doing or does or abstain from doing or promise to do or to abstain from doing something, such act or abstinence or promise is called a consideration for the promise. Malaysian law past consideration is valid consideration according to section 2D and 26 of Contract Acts 1950. The words has been done or abstain from doing imply that even if the act done was prior to the promise, the third party may provide consideration. So for the second law is section 26A, is an agreement on account of natural love and affection in condition where the contract must be in writing and registered if it required. According to the case Venkata Chinaya v. Verikataramaya 1881. So Venkata, in this case, a sister agreed to pay an annuity of 653 rupee to her brother, who provide no consideration for the promise. But on the same day, the mother had given the sister some land, stipulating that she must pay the annuity to her brother. The sister subsequently failed to pay the annuity and was sued by her brother. The court held she was liable to pay the annuity. There was a good consideration for the promise, even though if it not moved from her brother. So the application from this issue of whether Ali can bring an action against his sister for the amount promises in a contract where the consideration for such promise has been furnished by the mother of Aminah and Alia to provide allowance for him 500 ringgit monthly. According law of Malaysia Act 136 Contract Act, when a desire or promiser, the promise or any person has done or abstained from doing or does or abstain from doing or promise to do or to abstain from doing something, such act or abstinence or promise is called a consideration for promise. From this definition, it is clear that in a valid contract, the consideration need not flow from the promisee only. It could flow from any other person who is not a party to such contract. In this case, Ali can bring in action to his sister as the consideration is acceptable in Malaysian law. Ali can sue his sister. So in a conclusion, Ali's sister, which are Aminah and Alia, was liable on the promise to provide allowance for him 500 ringgit monthly, as there was a valid consideration for the promise from her mother, not from the promise. So in this case, Ali can bring an action against his sister, which is Ali can sue for the amount promised in a contract where the consideration for such promise has been furnished by mother of Aminah and Alia. For the question 3 is from topic capacity into contract. Lily sometimes suffers from mental disorder which causes her easily to hallucinate and unable to think rationally. One day, she entered into an agreement with ABC Ltd to sell her 10-story office building for 1.5 million ringgit Malaysia. The current market value of the property is 15 million ringgit Malaysia. A week later, she realized that she would suffer loss due to the contract. She wishes to know whether she could challenge the validity of the contract. Advise Lily. So the issue is whether the contract entered into Lily, who is sometimes suffer from mental disorder, can be invalidated on the ground that she did not have capacity to enter into the contract by reason of her mental disorder condition. So Section 11 Contract Act 1950 is the law. Every person is competent to contract who is the age of majority according to the law to which he is subject and who is of sound mind and is not disqualified from the contracting by any law to which he is subject. So Section 12 according to Law of Malaysia Act 1950, Section 12(1), a person is said to be of sound mind for the purpose of making contract if at the time when he makes it, he is capable of understanding it and of forming a rational judgment as to its effect upon his interest. Section 12(2), a person who is usually of unsound mind but occasionally of sound mind may make a contract when he is of sound mind. Section 12(30), a person who is usually of sound mind but occasionally of unsound mind may not make a contract when he is of unsound mind. So the illustration for the law is a patient in a mental hospital who is at interval of sound mind may contract during those intervals. A sane man who is delirious from fever or who is so drunk that he cannot understand the term of a contract or form a rational judgment as to its effect on his interest cannot contract with such delirium and drunkenness last. So for the case is from Matthews v. Baxter 1873. Baxter was drunk agreed at an auction to purchase a property. Once sobriety returned, he decided that he wished to affirm the contract that had been made by him while drunk. Sometimes later he had a change of mind and he sought to resign the contract, arguing that he lacked capacity to enter the contract by reason of intoxication. The court held that because Baxter had confirmed the contract, it was no longer open to him to avoid the contract on the grounds of intoxication. This was defied the fact that he had made out the necessary element of this defense, where Baxter had agreed to buy some house from Matthew. At the time, he was too drunk to know what he was doing, but he ratified the contract at the time he was sober. It was held the contract was binding. So the application according to Section 11, Section 12(1), Section 12(2), Section 12(3 Contract Act 1950, this issue can be referred to the cases of Matthew v. Baxter 1873. Whether Lily was of sound mind at the time of entering into the contract, the question is silent on this. If she was, the contract is clearly valid. However, if she was not of sound mind at the relevant time, there is a possibility that she could avoid the contract. So the conclusion is Lily may avoid the contract if it's proven that she was unsound mind at the time of entering into the contract. But if Lily was sound mind at the time contract is met, so the contract is valid. That's all from me. So thank you.